A very good evening to you and a warm welcome to our program Business Today on Channel I. And this is your weekly business show where we give you an in-depth look at today's business landscape. So we do have an important personality in the studios with us, and we will certainly have a look at who a business personality of the week is. So our business personality of the week will be someone who is attached to the customs, since today's topic on Business Today will be basically on Sri Lanka customs and what it does, and we will also touch on something which is trending these days but not in a great way, because this has caused a lot of issues to the public and losses as well, and it's about scamming. So we will be touching on all these on Business Today.